Scots were here when Wallace went, Scots the bruisers often then, where country of glory did, fought a victory. Nazarene, Nazarene, freedom sword, only draw, Freeman son, oh Freeman ford, and then follow me. Oh, there we go. Today, pretty much as you saw in the title, we're going to be doing the Scottish men-at-arms at the Battle of Bannockburn, or as they're also known as the Mixed Infantry. The Mixed Infantry are a forgotten bunch. These guys are incredibly dangerous. They would have either fought in the shield-turn ranks with elongated spear, in which they would have also pretty much used different variety of weaponry. In fact, they had better equipment and armor than the regular pikemen or spearmen at the Battle of Bannockburn. Primarily mail, which would be one of the biggest ones. But entirely, they would also have two-handed weapons, such as this bastard, known as the Dane axe. And such, these were known as cleaving type weapons. They would have also had type of weapons known as the Lochbar, in which is a Scottish style polearm. And such has different modelizations on it. In fact, there are different versions such as the glaive model or the halberd model, which I kind of do like the glaive and halberd a little bit from the Lochbar. But as well, they would have also used somewhat of one-handed style weapons, like this bad boy. Which most of the time they would have taken most of these weapons from as farming implement tools, or as well taken them from the English dead with guerrilla style warfare. So y'all pretty much stay trapped in, and we'll get right into it. Hello my brothers and sisters of the Order, welcome back to the Order. I'm Celtic Templar, and yes, we're going back to another how-to video on how to dress as the Scottish soldier or Scottish man-at-arms during the Battle of Bannockburn, which are also been known as the Mixed Infantry. The Mixed Infantry are pretty much, well, a forgotten story in the Battle of Bannockburn, seeing as though most people remember the pikemen or the noble commanders, that of which fought. However, we do have to put this out that many of these well-man-at-arms would have actually been hired soldiers, or in this case, pretty much well-paid soldiers that were under the liege lord or the said commander. In other words, they were technically lower than the ranking of a knight. If none of you know how this works, there is the peasant soldier, which we see as spearman, there's the man-at-arms, the knight, and then the noble lord, and then the king. And such, we had to understand that the man-at-arms that the Scottish military had used at the Battle of Bannockburn were entirely different compared to that of which we might understand. One major thing we do have to understand, though, is that the man-at-arms, or mixed infantry, as some people pronounce them, would have actually used pretty much any type of weapons and armor they can get their hands on, such as the Scottish Lochbar, the Dane axe, or as well any type of, well, tools and equipment they could get their hands on, such as, well, farming implements like flails, axes, maces, and so on, which would also be acquired from the British military, that of which they would have committed through a guerrilla warfare campaign. In fact, armor such as mail, or including that of plate armor like bringing nines or coat of plates, would have actually been taken from the battlefield as loot, prior before the battlefield of Bannockburn. But we have to understand, though, is that the fact that the, well, overall intensity of the battle is that the Scots at the Battle of Bannockburn would have actually incredibly, well, looked kind of like a peasant army most of the time. And it was only a big rarity to actually see Scottish soldiers even dressed in full-on mail. However, those would be the man-at-arms entirely. And in fact, even they would even have less amount of armor. But why don't we get right into it, and I can tell you why.
Wasn't Monarchlo, Purtina Bombadi Bannockburn, Ilan Many, Peter Dikiri, the Saxona, to the Bar, Ilana, Hertimu, Urkari, the Mutinale, Tatonia, and Sheila Hane, and Initrati, of Clony, the Holiday, no, not this delay. Delay me around the deal, Robert the Bruce, yeah, cross my. Ja, ik was stom, maar hij mondeling, nee, voorheen wat op bal. Zag hij dat bij Rogler, Scotland. Ah!
Well, y'all, wasn't that thrilling? Now, as y'all can tell, it looked like I was struggling. Well, technically I kind of was with the axe, because most of the time some of the weapons that the Scots were using at the battle, such as the Dane axe type model, were incredibly a bit different and as well extremely heavy. Kind of like what we might see with the Russian Bardiche, but in truth, we have to understand that the Scots would have actually pretty much gotten any of these type of weapons mainly from wherever they can get their hands on them. And in fact, many of these would have been farming implement tools, such as the lockbar. If you don't know what a lockbar is, the Scottish lockbar is a type of weapon which would be a pole weapon in history, which would have started up technically around this time, first used as a farming implement tool, then into a weapon of warfare. In truth, they would have had either one or two designs, such as the glaive model or the halberd model, and such were, the reason they're called this is because of the fact the way they look. And such, these weapons of war were technically, one of the type of ways we have to understand of how implemented in warfare. And in such, these weapons were pretty much made to be used for hacking design tools, especially to the fact, due to their heavy blade, that can easily defeat the person underneath his armor, even though he was either wearing plate or mail and gambeson. And in such, that heavy blow can easily kill a person, and as well break their body underneath the armor, meaning the blade does not need to be sharpened. But yes, y'all, if any of y'all want to know any type of other videos and such, we will be doing pretty much a lot of other how-to videos on how to dress as historical characters in history. But in such, we do have to inform y'all that we are technically, hopefully, thinking on doing a video on, well, the commanders, or the our how-to video on the commanders, or in such, even the great general himself, or king, Robert the Bruce at the Battle of Bannockburn, what they would have looked like. Now entirely, I do have to put this out here, y'all, that I will have to have someone else help me out at putting the armor on. So, yeah. But pretty much, y'all, this is the type of days for the Battle of Bannockburn, so I hope I can get it done entirely soon. As I said, I have to do these pre-recorded, so yeah. But in truth, I do love the fact that pretty much a lot of y'all are into the Battle of Bannockburn, seeing as though if it wasn't for this type of victory, Scotland would have still been conquered by the English. But entirely, we do have to understand that Scotland had pretty much managed to defeat the British military, or English military, throughout forms of history using guerrilla-style tactics mostly, unless you use better style of warfare. But entirely, if you ask me, Scotland still deserves to be its own independent nation. And in fact, yes, I am still a fan of the Outlaw King, but I still believe that it should have been the Battle of Bannockburn, not the Battle of Loudon Hill. If we all understand one point in history, there are many times over we have to understand that the Battle of Bannockburn is a lot more significant in history for one major reason, because it finally put the nail in the coffin for the English to even try and invade Scotland in the first place. But entirely, I can probably much see why they did this, because it was kind of getting a little elongated of a movie, but still. But anyways, guys, hopefully you liked this video, like and subscribe for more, and as well, also click that bell button for notifications when the next video comes up. Also, check us out on Facebook, and as well, y'all, if any of y'all have any ideas for any of our how-to videos, please let me know in the comments below, and also stay tuned for more on the history of Bannockburn that will be coming out very shortly. Anyways, guys, I've been Templar. Have a great day.